breaking news in the world of daytime drama. Rebecca Budig, known to millions as Taylor Hayes on CBS's The Bold and the Beautiful, has quietly exited the canvas, heading soon into a brand new chapter on Days of Our Lives. That departure sends shockwaves through the Forrester tapestry and sets the stage for a shocking reappearance, the return of Quinn Fuller. Here's how the dominoes fall, why it matters, and what kind of explosive new dramas await. Taylor Hayes has always embodied emotional gravitas, depth, and unwavering devotion, first to Ridge, later to the children and the family legacy. Her presence anchored many of the show's most heartfelt moments. But insiders now confirm she has stepped away. Rebecca Budig will depart Bold and the Beautiful to assume a new role in Days of Our Lives. That move not only closes a chapter, it sparks a cascade of consequences. Without Taylor in the equation, Ridge finds himself vulnerable, exposed. The bedrock of his moral compass shaken. His children, especially Thomas and Steffi, twins who each inherited parts of Taylor's fiery conviction, feel the void. Hope and Faith, the daughters, sense the loss too. Taylor's departure isn't just a vacancy, it's an emotional earthquake in the hearts of the Forresters. Enter Quinn Fuller. She's not just any return, she's the kind of character whose re-entry flips entire households upside down. Quinn once disrupted Forrester operations, ensnared Ridge in temptation, and tormented the family with lies, manipulation, and power plays. With Taylor out of the picture, Quinn's return becomes not just possible, but inevitable. She sees an opening. She sees desperation. She sees a man alone, confounded by grief and longing, and she moves in. So the stage is set. Taylor exits, Quinn re-enters. Ridge stumbles through foggy nights, memories of Taylor flaring in and out of his mind. But Quinn appears in his life not as an apology or a peace offering, but as a calculated reemergence. She knows where the fractures lie, in the Forrester marriage, in the new generation's loyalties, in the power structures. She exploits them with style, confrontation, and seduction. She doesn't mumble, she declares war. Across the Forrester halls, whispers begin. People wonder, where did Taylor go? What prompted Rebecca Budig's decision? Rumors swirl that she was offered a longer-term arc on Days of Our Lives, a fresh canvas and bigger story. Bold declined to renew, or perhaps couldn't match the creative possibilities. But what really matters here is what that means for Forrester. No Taylor, no forgiveness, no stabilizing force. Quinn's return doesn't just fill the gap, it widens it. Quinn shows up at Forrester Creations, confident, polished, dangerous. She corners Ridge in the pattern that once nearly destroyed the family. Ridge, broken by the news of Taylor's exit, disoriented by conflicting loyalties between daughter and love, is an easy mark. Quinn leans in, determined to reignite what previously bloomed. But her real aim isn't love, it's leverage, it's control. With Quinn's strategic mind, she will provoke conflict within the family board. She will shake loose alliances with Thomas, Steffi, and even Brooke's loyalties. Brooke, Taylor's longtime rival yet occasional ally, sees an opening. Quinn's presence alarms her, but also intrigues her. She cannot ignore the threat to her own position in Ridge's life. Meanwhile, Taylor's departure sends the next generation reeling. Thomas, in grief, questions his path. His emotional turmoil over losing his mother makes him susceptible to Quinn. She may manipulate his insecurities, playing on his ambition and his longing for family unity. Steffi, strong-willed and fiercely protective of her mother's memory, resists. She fires questions. Why did Taylor leave? What did she choose over her children? Her pain translates to confrontation with Ridge. Did he fail them? And when Quinn re-enters, she becomes the personification of betrayal. Hope and Faith watch from the edges, uncertain. Without Taylor, the sisters cling to each other, but Quinn's shadow looms. She may charm them in different ways, or set them against their father. As for Brooke, this is a chance to reposition herself. Historically, she's alternated between adversary and ally to Taylor. With Quinn resurfacing, Brooke might step in to support Ridge or compete for his attention. The emotional triangle becomes a quadrilateral and a battlefield. Power plays intensify at Forrester Creations. With Taylor gone, board seats open, loyalties shift. Quinn moves in, quietly building her network. Her return heralds boardroom showdowns, sabotage campaigns, and identity reveals, maybe even corporate espionage. She doesn't simply want Ridge, she wants control. She will manipulate Thomas's design line ambitions, Steffi's editorial influence, and Ridge's creative uncertainty. She may pit family members against one another to destabilize Brooke's alliances. The resulting chaos gives her leverage in every decision, every collection, every runway. In the midst of that, Ridge's emotional core cracks. Memories of Taylor flood his consciousness. Quiet moments, shared children, the struggle for fidelity, the art of love. But the contrast with Quinn, her fiery ambition, her willingness to do damage to get her way, creates combustible tension. His grief becomes indecision. Is Quinn a hollow substitute? A threat disguised as temptation? A chance for distraction or another betrayal? The narrative moves fast. A surprise encounter in the Forrester boardroom. An overheard whisper in the hallway. A family dinner where someone raises Taylor's absence, unspoken but felt. Thomas lashes out. Steffi storms out. Brooke watches Quinn challenge Ridge publicly for the first time in years, Gilly signifying Quinn's return. That smile, those lines that unsettled everyone in the past, now sharpened. The electricity hums. Viewers will soon witness Ridge torn between grief and allure, morality and attraction, family and ambition. Thomas and Steffi will clash bitterly. One thinking they must protect the past, Steffi, the other tempted by reinvention Quinn offers, Thomas. Hope and faith become emotional barometers, silent watchers waiting for guidance. Brooke might emerge either as stabilizer or competitor. And Quinn, that woman, will sow chaos, claiming she only wants fairness, validation, promising stability to Ridge even as she fractures the family's foundations. What makes this storyline work? Taylor's departure isn't fade away. It's meaningful. It removes a moral stabilizer. It removes emotional depth. It creates raw space. It lets Quinn reclaim center stage, not as background, but as provocateur. Ridge's inner struggle becomes visible. The children's loyalties and fractures become visible. Corporate and romantic power struggles intertwine. The dynamic is electric, emotionally charged, high stakes. Audiences will be rooting for Ridge to resist, to remember Taylor, but Quinn's confidence and cunning will keep pulling him in. The family will fracture. Alliances will break. Steffi versus Thomas. Brooke versus Quinn. Brooke versus Ridge. Sons and daughters versus each other. Meanwhile, Taylor might return someday, but for now, her absence drives the plot. Quinn fills that narrative vacuum. Behind the scenes, this is bold moves by both network and actors. Rebecca Budig, leaping to Days of Our Lives, another long-running stalwart of the soap world, signals a shift. Days offers her new territory, new stories, new connection with a different fan base. Bolt's writing machine turns the loss into opportunity. Quinn's return is both shocking and inevitable. The show reinvents family conflict through her reemergence. In dramatic television terms, this feels like next-level soap opera. Exit a beloved figure, open the emotional and corporate battlefield, stage the return of a toxic force, escalate the stakes, and watch alliances collapse and reform. The Forrester saga enters a new era defined by absence and return, grief and seduction, love and manipulation. So in shorthand, Taylor Hayes exits, leaving Ridge and his children emotionally unmoored. Quinn Fuller returns, seizing her moment to reclaim power, influence, and perhaps Ridge's heart. The family fractures. The corporation is in turmoil. And the emotional consequences ripple through every hallway, every design studio, every family gathering. Viewers should expect betrayal, tears, confrontations, boardroom coups, and romantic tension turned razor-sharp. That is where the story stands. Rebecca Budig leaves Bold to take a mysterious new role on Days of Our Lives, clearing the stage for Quinn's dramatic return. Quinn steps into a void and threatens to tear the family apart. Ridge wavers. Steffi confronts. Thomas falters. Brooke calculates. Hope and Faith watch. Forrester Creations trembles. Explosive drama follows. It started with a crash. Night. Rain. A winding road in the hills above Los Angeles. Headlights cut across the dark. Inside the car, Taylor Hayes and her daughter, Steffi Forrester. Words were exchanged, heated, raw. Something about betrayal. Something about secrets. Then the swerve, the scream, the blinding impact of steel and glass. When Steffi opened her eyes again, time had moved on. The hospital lights burned above her. Machines hummed. A dull ache echoed through her body. But that wasn't what unsettled her most. Taylor was gone. No one would give her a straight answer. Ridge, broken-eyed. Thomas, evasive. Brooke, hovering, oddly somber. Liam visited with the kids, but didn't stay long. And when Steffi asked where her mother was, the room tensed. Every time. That's when the whispers began to bleed into her waking life. Visions, dreams, hallucinations of Taylor pleading. Don't tell them. Don't let them know. Promise me, Steffi. No one can ever find out. The voice was desperate. Haunted. And for reasons she couldn't fully explain, Steffi kept quiet. She didn't push too hard. Something inside her, deep, ancient, told her the truth was dangerous. The doctors called it retrograde amnesia. 6 months, give or take. Wiped clean. Gone. A psychological defense mechanism triggered by trauma. They warned her that memories might return in flashes, fragmented and emotionally overwhelming. And soon enough they did. But the images were broken. Voices echoing, Taylor crying, papers burning, bags of money, a locked cabinet, the sound of sirens in the distance. Something about a foundation. Something about Taylor sobbing into her hands, whispering, I didn't mean for it to happen this way. And then came Quinn. She arrived with grace. With quiet concern. Not as a rival, not as an intruder, but as a healer. I know what it's like to lose someone before you've said everything you need to say, she told Steffi softly, fingers gently wrapping around a cup of tea she'd brought. Sometimes grief makes us remember wrong. Or forget what we're not supposed to remember. Steffi didn't understand at first. But Quinn kept showing up. Not too often, just enough. A presence. A guide. A comfort. And then, slowly, she began steering the conversations. Do you ever think your mother was hiding something? Do you remember anything strange about the weeks before the crash? Did she ever mention the Forrester Foundation? That's when the dots began to connect. The Forrester Foundation, the family's philanthropic arm, beloved in the public eye, designed to help struggling artists, battered women, and international aid efforts. Steffi hadn't thought of it in months. But when Quinn mentioned it, the vision sharpened. A ledger. A signature. A number circled in red. Taylor pacing. A shouting match with Ridge. You said it was for research. How could you pull money without board approval? Steffi recoiled at the thought. Her mother? Embezzling? It didn't make sense. But when she brought it up to Ridge, his face paled. Not shock. Recognition. You weren't supposed to remember that. That's when everything unraveled. The truth emerged like a cancer, slow, ugly, and impossible to contain. Taylor had indeed rerouted funds, millions, from the Foundation's international grant program. It wasn't greed. Not in the traditional sense. It was desperation. A private clinic. A new trauma therapy model. She believed she was saving lives. But the money was taken without oversight, without disclosure, and when the board caught wind of discrepancies, the investigation began. And now, with Taylor gone, The questions had nowhere to land but on the family she left behind. The authorities circled. Auditors dug into years of financial records. The press latched onto the story like wolves. Has the Forrester family been hiding white-collar theft under the guise of charity? Headlines screamed. Fashion Week invitations were rescinded. Contracts froze. Ridge was summoned to testify. Brooke was pushed into public relations fire control. And Steffi, who still couldn't remember everything, was paralyzed by guilt. Had she helped cover it up? Had her silence, post-crash, delayed justice? And through it all, Quinn stayed close. Not overt. Not commanding. Just near. Listening. Offering memories when Steffi couldn't summon them herself. I remember you once said Taylor was terrified someone would find out. You told me she cried in your arms, said she made a mistake. You asked me what to do. I said the truth always finds its way out. Maybe she had. Maybe she hadn't. Steffi couldn't tell anymore. The line between hallucination and memory blurred more every day. But the guilt was real. And the family was falling apart. Thomas took it the hardest. Protective of Taylor to the end, he refused to believe it. He accused Quinn of manipulation. He accused Steffi of betrayal. He shouted at Ridge for not defending their mother. But when the bank records came out, signed authorization letters with Taylor's name, a hidden account in Zurich, there was no defense left. The damage was done. The IRS came next. The foundation was suspended. Investigators froze Forrester assets. Payroll stalled. Designers walked out. Eric fell ill under the pressure. Donna tried to rally the family, but the fractures were too deep. Quinn, for her part, began to shift. From spiritual confidant to pragmatic advisor. She offered suggestions. Solutions. Contacts. Let me speak to my people. I can get those funds unfrozen. There's a legal backdoor that might shield Steffi from liability. Ridge, if you declare temporary bankruptcy, I know investors who would jump at a restructure. At first, the family hesitated. But then Quinn produced results. A delay in court filings. A generous loan. A PR spin that subtly redirected blame onto clerical oversight. Ridge hated it, but he couldn't deny it worked. Soon, Quinn wasn't just helping, she was leading. She positioned herself as the savior of the Forrester dynasty. She planted herself inside decision-making rooms. She counseled Steffi, calmed Ridge, negotiated with creditors. Even Hope, ever cautious, admitted Quinn had turned the tide. But her real victory came quietly when Eric, disillusioned and weary, agreed to step down temporarily and name a financial oversight board. Quinn made sure she got a seat. From that moment on, it was no longer just about Taylor. Or the crash. Or the money. It was about power. Control. Redemption disguised as strategy. With the Forresters in disarray and public trust shattered, Quinn seized the narrative. It wasn't theft, she told the press. It was mismanagement by a brilliant woman under tremendous pressure. Let us rebuild her legacy the right way. Steffi, still torn between memory and reality, stood beside her. Thomas refused. Brooke remained silent. Ridge watched everything crumble, helpless. But the story wasn't over. One morning, Steffi woke up shaking. A new memory surfaced. Not a dream. A moment. A confession. The night before the crash, Taylor clutching her hand, eyes swollen with tears. I didn't do it for the clinic. I did it because I owed someone. Someone dangerous. And just like that, a new layer peeled back. Blackmail. Not misappropriation, but coercion. The real villain's still hidden. And the person Taylor feared most, still out there. And suddenly, all eyes turned again, not to Steffi, not to Ridge, but to Quinn. Because in that same memory, Taylor had said another name. Whispered it like a curse. She said she could make it all go away if I cooperated. She had photos. Documents. Threats. I didn't want to believe it. Steffi ran to Ridge, demanded access to old security files, cross-referenced visits to Taylor's clinic. Quinn's name appeared more than once. And just like that, the savior became suspect. Steffi's rage ignited. She confronted Quinn at Forrester Creations in front of half the staff. "Did you blackmail my mother?" she demanded. Quinn laughed. Denied. Mocked. But the cracks showed. The performance faltered. And when Thomas showed up with copies of digital correspondence, anonymous emails traced to a VPN Quinn had once used during a jewelry scandal, the facade shattered. Ridge pushed for her removal. Brooke called the board. Eric was silent. Steffi, trembling, looked Quinn in the eye and said, "You built your power by standing on the ashes of my mother. But this is where it ends." The investigation reopened. This time, not just into the foundation, but into Quinn's role in the embezzlement, the blackmail, the manipulation of a woman in crisis. Taylor's name began to clear, posthumously or otherwise. And as the truth emerged, so did Steffi's full memory. Not just the facts. The feelings. The fight with Taylor in the car. The screaming match about secrets. Taylor's anguish. The swerve. The crash. And the final, heartbreaking realization. Taylor hadn't run. She hadn't abandoned them. She'd tried to protect them. From Quinn. From shame. From scandal. And paid the price with her life. The family stood at a crossroads. The empire had nearly collapsed. Trust had been shattered. But for the first time, Steffi stood strong. Not just as a CEO, but as a daughter determined to protect her mother's name. The past couldn't be undone. But justice, finally, could be served.